Hello, hello, hello. Can you hear me? How's it going? Sorry for all the on and off, on and off, on and off. Been having difficulty getting stuff working. It's not one thing, it's another. Okay. How goes it? So, I'm feeling a lot better. Wanted to stream last week, but as soon as I got home on Wednesday, like, I went and bought a bookshelf and everything. I was getting it ready to get it built, just so I could change some things here. And I wasn't home an hour, right? So I wasn't home for an hour yet. And my entire body just shut down. Started aching all over, getting tired, headache, just everything. And like you ever get a stomach flu or something? And after you've had your day of throwing up, you still everything still hurts because of all the exertion. I know not everybody throws up the same way, but when I do, it's horrendous. It hurts. I felt like that for the next 3 days. Even yesterday, I still had kind of a relapse, and I was just moving things around in the hobby room. It was nothing heavy either. And I just felt absolutely horrible, like no energy. Feeling fine now though. And what I'm doing is I'm throwing in some shadow colors, just like I did on the legs. Let me know if I begin to wander outside of the frame. If you go into the community posts and scroll down, you'll see my test I did on a different torso, just to see how all this would look together. Ares is performing a functional check of all our systems. The facehugger deployment works. Because for a second we had tried using the new built-in multi-stream that's in Streamlabs and OBS. We thought we had it, we'd gone through and I didn't finish painting the back of that, okay? So we'd gone through and thought we'd had it, and then I go to try it today, and absolutely nothing worked again. So we're like, what the hell? So before we continue on with the shadow work, I've got to finish filling in the back. Looks like Frankie's done trying to play fetch. I don't know where he went off to. So yeah, the past 7 days have really tried my patience in a lot of ways. So how's everybody else been? Doing well, I hope. There's that finished up. Now the extremely arduous task. I have to paint the unsightly details as well. How the hell? Trying to get all the angles and dangles without the brush slipping. This done up here, and then we'll return back down to that. And I know it's later than my usual and on an odd day, but I figured it'd been over a week since I streamed. I needed to do something. I wanted to yesterday, but the rearrangement I'd put off for a week had to get done. I now have access to my airbrush booth. I got that set up. So I shouldn't say access, but I've actually got it set up for use now. I want to try and figure out a way to get a camera on that I can switch over to when I work at it. So right now it's going to just be for larger projects. I've got another all gold project coming up, and I really don't want that much gold paint floating in the air for both my own health and the cleanliness of the hobby room. The booth is actually vented outside, so Let's see if I got a thinner brush. I believe I do. Or at least one capable of finer points. Don't know how long I'll be on tonight. I want to at least try and get a 2-hour stream in. We'll come back with a wash and tighten up the demarcation line. I might give her overall body a wash of like brown or something anyway, just to tone it down. It's a bit pale. We'll see. It kind of makes everything else stand out nicely, though. And a little more down in here. Falling out of the way here. I don't know if I can... if I can get in there. On the original file size, you're lucky to even get a brush in there to paint the details anyway. This is 200% larger. Back to the other color we were doing. I'm using just Vallejo Red. As the base, and then I'm going back with black red for the shadow. And you'll see how that kind of starts to work here in a minute once I get past this step. And if anybody else wants to try this figure, give me 1 second. To find ritual designs. So if you go to this creator's page on My Mini Factory, he has his own web page, but it's a little more difficult to navigate. Here, let me get the... Oh, come on, you. So for anybody on YouTube, you'll have to copy paste it. But if you go to this creator's page, you'll be able to get the files much easier. Let me see. Store. It's one of his earlier works. Where is she? There we go. For those who don't want to look around, this is the figure itself. I printed it at about 200%. So that's what I'm working on. So if you'd like to try it out yourself, you're more than welcome. Okay, back to the painting. As I said, this is one of his earlier works. A lot of his newer stuff has some insanely fine texture work. But he seems to update the My Mini Factory page pretty regularly. So outside of his own web page, I think that's his primary release route. Just when I last tried to buy files off of his regular page, it was a bit difficult. Like, I was able to, but I didn't like how it worked. And while I was recovering from being sick, I decided to try my best to get further along in Stalker 2's progress. Apparently I was either hard bugged or locked when I was engaging Faust at the Dugas. So I decided to cheese the game. I didn't cheat, but I cheesed it. Essentially, I went to an earlier save before I started that aspect of the mission and said, fuck it. And I went around the zone looking for things. Those things in particular were an exosuit, fully upgradable, and a Saiga fully automatic mag-loaded shotgun, which I also upgraded and used almost strictly slugs in the engagement, essentially turning this automatic shotgun, in-game anyway, so taking the shotgun with slugs, mag-fed, fully automatic, and turned it into a short-barreled 50 caliber. And needless to say, between the upgraded armor in this very odd boss fight and the more advantageous weapon, I was able to accomplish the boss fight in 3 mags. But in that case, it was fighting cheese with cheese. Because what the game had done is essentially given a human some of the strongest abilities of one of the stronger mutants in the game. So yeah, the game was going to cheese me, I was going to cheese it right back. Bring some right down the middle here. And a lot of you are probably looking at this going, "What the fuck are you doing?" Just watch. If anyone caught the previous work I did on the legs, well, that's how those turned out. The exact same method. I am going to let those dry for a minute. While that does that, where's my steel? Okay, the steel isn't very steely. In fact, I think it's actually brighter than the dark aluminum, which is odd. Whatever, I'm gonna give it a wash anyway. So what'd you all do over the weekend? That steel's way too bright. And this camera looking right there. And it sounds about like my weekend, except mine was not, mine wasn't planned. Add some wear to the Picatinny rail. To the rear sight, better flip up. Actually, no, I am going to stop using this color. I don't like it. Could have sworn I had gunmetal. That's right, that's the bottle that won't stand up right. It's got a little nipple on the bottom. I know I have gunmetal in here somewhere. Where the hell is it? There it is. Let's get the last of this out of here. Because the steel is not stealing. This at least feels darker to the eye. There we go. And I'm trying to not get it on the polymer anywhere because that's just black plastic. I will get it all over the holographic site. All these, what I assume are pins for cleaning and assembly and disassembly. I'm probably going to give the gun itself like some sand washes and things like that to really pop out just how it's not clean. You know, it's used, it's abused. And my foot is itching. So next day off will be Friday, so that'll be my next mainstream day. Shouldn't really be any trouble doing that. Not foreseeably, anyway. And then my next day off after that is Sunday. If the weather's good, though, Sunday morning I'll be going to Cars and Coffee. Actually, let me see what it says the forecast is going to be, because right now it's the middle of February and it was over 60 degrees today. That's not normal for Utah. Yeah, Sunday's looking like a high of 39 but clear, so yeah, I'll probably go get some coffee, look at some old cars, as well as bring mine along. A lot of people are surprised I drive mine in the winter. As long as they're not salting the road, I'm driving it. And we've had plenty of snow in the mountains, but we've had nothing down at this range. We've had one day where I had to take a different car to work, put it that way. Oh, and while I was sick, something else showed up in the mail. A little present from Solway Studios. A Badger Velocity. We're gonna think of a way to use this pretty soon. I'm thinking it might be on the Robot Rider. Why you? To be fair, somebody else won it in a contest on his stream. They didn't need it. So Solway was aware of my current airbrush issues and sent it to me. But why you, huh, Ares? Meat woo? You're making less sense. Are you drunk? Are you using text to speak? or text to speech. So we went from ew to meat woo. Okay. If you want to woo your meat, that's up to you. That's fine. So yeah, I'm basically going to be off Friday, work Saturday, be off again Sunday, and then after that I'm not off again till Thursday. So, but if I can get more days like today where I actually feel good after I get home, then we'll probably be seeing more streams like this in the afternoons. Yeah, there we go. Got all the important metal bits taken care of. You know, we should make that a cheer thing, just meat woo. We need to see what Englishman sounds like when he says meat woo. But my boss found out that Siri, you can program Siri with different accents. She programmed in the Australian accent. And even Australian Siri says nar when she says no. Okay. Back onto the red. I need some dry brushing brushes. Fresh paper towel. If the paper towels don't fall out of my hand. Oh, have I really? No, 40 minutes. Okay. I was gonna say, don't tell me I've been on an hour already. I wasted half that time getting ready. And then once I get the base red back on, we're going to go to dark vermilion, mixed with a bit of the base red for a highlight layer. And then we'll go to straight vermilion for the final highlight. Okay, get the brush loaded up. This you want to work with mainly a downward stroke action, assuming your light direction is from above. Just start blending in the edges of what you'd already painted on. Just having to be careful around the flesh parts already painted that I don't get the brush on them. And I'll use this area as an example. Let's see, autofocus, you gonna play nice or no? Kinda. It's basically picking the surface clean again and leaving the detail in the shadow. Come on, autofocus, you just worked for a second there. Let's see. Almost. Hey, Flight Sim. How you doing? Hey, Moody Paul. I've been on, not in the past week because I've been sick, but I've been on. There's 4 endings. There's Skiff, there's Scar, there's the Colonel, and there's Straylock. The true ending is Straylock. Skiffs and Straylocks are seen as about equal. And it also depends on who you side with as you go through how it ends too. Like, I'm trying to play it very loose. The game forced my hand in one part where I had to side with the Colonel, but if it allows me an opportunity to go against him and side with Scar, I'm going to go that route. Because if you side with Scar, you can put Straylock or Scar into the tube at the end. I'm going through all the crap in Pripyat now. I haven't got to the scene where Dalin gets yelled at by the Colonel. And I know if I do things right with Dektyrev, the Colonel can be eliminated there. Anna is weird. The way she starts out, you already know that they know more about subtle matter and the X projects and all that they're letting on. But that's the problem with this one is technically no one ending is wrong, depending on how you want to play the game, which is the real clincher about it. Whereas before you had a sense of right and wrong in the other three, especially in the first one when you're playing as Straylock and you find out that you basically got, betrayed. So you choose to end C consciousness and blow up their pods. But obviously that didn't end everything. The Ward is no better or worse than any other group. But after what Faust shows you, you kind of got to go against them. But at one part, if you do go against them, you wind up losing everything and having to start over again. Because there's no way in hell you can get all your shit back, no matter what you do. No, Straylock doesn't shut it down, actually. And that's why it's really open to interpretation. It's all in how you play the game. No one ending is really wrong. But from what I understand, the Straylock one is the true ending, because if you really think about it, everything from the start has revolved around him. Every single thing. How far have you gotten, Moody Paul? Because Monolith is back. Monolith is back. I could tell from the preview Monolith was back before the game even came out. Yeah, he basically closed the zone off. He didn't destroy it, though. But any good stalker will find a way in or out, regardless of how Straylock sets it up. The zone's always changing. Have you been to Pripyat yet? They're more devoted than a band of Ultramarines right now. Brothers! Yeah, you think you've done some hard shit in the game now? Wait till you get to Pripyat. Yeah, the Ward ending does shut the zone down to a degree. What you didn't get, though, is Circa. Were you able to put 2 and 2 together at Circa, what they were doing? they can create their own artifacts, which means they can create their own anomalies, which also means they can create their own zone. Didn't you notice how sometimes Anna just seemed to, or whatever her name is, the smoking girl, just seemed to appear? Like, oh, I don't know, a mental transmission? There's one part where Skiff even mentioned that he couldn't smell her cigarette, even though she's in the room smoking one. Similar to how when they revived the monolith test and you thought you were fighting people in the ward, but it turns out you weren't, but you did shoot one of their people. The whole thing, they're testing you. The whole game makes you question whether what you're experiencing at that moment is in fact real or not. That's part of what Faust was getting at. The zone's what you make it. And if you haven't fought Faust on top of the Dugai yet, well, sorry about the spoilers. You will need a better shotgun than a breech-loaded Spaz 12 or Cracker, a Remington. You'll need something that's magazine-loaded. Like I was saying, I took the Saiga and essentially turned it into a short-barreled 50 cal. That's the main letdown for me in the game, is they turned so many things into these mega boss fight encounters when that was never really what Stalker was about to me. Having to get a little heavier on the rebrushing here just to blend things a bit more. No, not so much mainstream. But it's the typical sequel problem. It's got to be bigger and badder and louder than the previous ones. But yeah, everything just felt a little too extra. Even not so much mainstream. Like the spirit of the game was still there. It didn't feel as intimate, you know? It didn't feel like you were discovering things. And towards the end, you do feel like you're on rails, more like Call of Pripyat. So far, the only fight I saw as a boss fight was Faust. Everything else I've encountered, it's been 3 or 4 shots and done, you know. Faust, because he's a human controller, was 3 mags and done. So we're talking, let's see, 27 rounds out of a Saiga, mag loaded. $20 if you account for possible misses because of the controller attack that he has. And when you do the fight with him, when you get to the part where you can choose whether or not to take his hand and come up, or to climb up yourself, take his hand first. It'll unlock an achievement, and then you'll have to redo the fight, and then you climb up by yourself and continue. No, Moody Paul, he's actually got like a little shield generator on his hip. You have to take that out first. And it's like... it's about the size of this thing, but attached to his hip. So, you're talking a target this big. And meanwhile, he can create psychic images in his head, in your head, clones of himself. Some are real, some are monolith soldiers that he's kind of covered over with his own image. And he attacks you twice with that. That's Dark Vermilion. Okay. Because you got the first encounter at the Dugal where you fail, and then you've got the second one where you kind of go in through the back. And that's not even the halfway point of the game. The Vermilion's starting to come into play and do a little work now. Starting to get some of that leather texture to come out too. But yeah, sadly you have to cheese the game to get through the Faust fight. I went all the way up to Yaniv and did the trick with the box to get on top of the old scientist bunker, where there's a diamond exosuit there. And then just south of the chemical plant, I went and got the Saiga shotgun in the stash. The one that's on the bus puzzle. And once those were upgraded, that combined with an upgraded G36, that's your loadout for the rest of the game, essentially. You'll start to get a couple of railguns along the way, but you don't get a good railgun until you get to Pripyat, and you go to the old Prometheus Theater, and you have your second encounter with a pseudo-giant there. So again, the Saiga comes into play and gets you winning that fight pretty quickly. And the pseudo-giants in this are absolute bastards. But that's where you get your first 100% railgun that's not been used and abused. And you get a bunch of ammo for it. I wanted to test it on a Chimera, But the only one I've encountered so far that wasn't scripted was in the swamps. And that was long ago before I had it. Well, that and the way A-Life is broken, you really can't get to an advantageous place anymore to utilize a sniper rifle like that. It's not like the older games where the characters were in existence all the time, and the scope allowed you to find them and zoom in on them and use the sniper rifle. It would be nice, but yeah. The draw distance for characters is so short that it kind of negates having any weapons like that in the game. I did use it on a bloodsucker though and watched it go flying. But that's because I saw it before it was able to go invisible. That's starting to come alive now. And the problem with A-Life in this game isn't so much GSC's Game World's fault. It's a shortcoming of Unreal 5. The way it works, I think. Like, it just won't allow like that many resources to be on the map at one time. At least not the way they're utilizing it. I think the only way they could get it to work is if they were to... Yeah. The only way they could really get it to work like the old-fashioned way, for lack of a better term, is if they took each of the areas in the game, because it loads fast enough, right? The game loads fast enough. There's no problem there. And you're talking the game having to load the entire world to even play the game. So we know it loads well. Now, and it sounds like a step backward, but hear me out, have a small loading gate between each region. Because the regions themselves aren't much different than the original size zones in the original version of the game. And break it down so it shuts down all the outside regions that you're not going to. It shuts down every resource, that way it frees up everything for that one region to use. Then you could have your actually functioning A-Life 2.0. That's how it works right now. I think it's a 200-meter radius. Like I said before, though, I think this is the game in terms of the scope that GSC Game World wanted to make back in 2007, but they just couldn't make it work. I don't think anybody could. But yeah, that's the only way I could think to make A-Life work properly within the confines of Unreal 5 is to actually make it like the old game again. So that was mixed vermilion. So let's get the regular straight vermilion out. Hey, Loston. Yeah. I just feeling a lot better today. Had time, had energy. Ooh, that was not supposed to happen. Yeah, sorry about last week. I was looking forward to streaming on my 2 days off in a row, but my body had other ideas. I was telling people earlier in the stream, I got home that Wednesday. I actually went out and bought my bookshelf so I could build it to have more display space. I was home maybe about an hour, and just every joint on me started hurting. And, you know, I honestly thought I was coming down with a cold or a flu or something. And I probably did partly because I remember Thursday night having kind of a fever. But I went and laid down and took a nap thinking, oh, maybe I just overdid it at work and I need to rest up a little bit. Woke up feeling worse. And then it felt like the comparison I made earlier was if you've ever had a stomach flu or, you know, thrown up a lot and you just all your muscles hurt because of the exertion afterward and the dehydration. That's what it felt like for me. No, it wasn't COVID. I didn't get a cough or anything like that. I was still down in NyQuil just to be sure that I didn't get like congested and stuff like that. Because once that hits, forget it. I'm down for 2 weeks. My wife got that, but I didn't. But that didn't go away until Saturday, obviously, when I had to go back to work. And then I was off yesterday, but then I had to make up for all the lost time from being sick, so I had to start my hobby room but reorganizing. So I got my airbrush compressor tent in play now. So that's why no stream yesterday. The whole room was a wreck. I couldn't have even streamed me doing it. Yeah, that's how I felt. But I didn't have any of the other symptoms typically associated with, you know, the bat flu. It just felt like all my joints hurt all at once at the same time. There we go. That's starting to look like scuffed up red leather now, isn't it? Or something along those lines. But the aches and pains were mainly only here for like 2 or 3 days, and then they were gone. So no, I don't think it was the bat flu, but I think I had some kind of regular cold and flu virus. No, just a third testicle. I don't know, what do you guys think? Just a bit lighter? Maybe add a little bit of yellow to knock that, that vermilion up? I think so. Well, I call it the bat flu because supposedly you're not allowed to say the other C word on YouTube. I can say cunt all day long, but, you know, heaven forbid I say, you know, the other C word. They're even cracking down on that one. God damn it, I got a nose hair tickling the fuck out of me. Well, the base is Vallejo red, like that, which is more of a maroon. Right? The shadows are black red, which is like a deeper, almost chocolate brown. Bit more on the red side, almost mahogany. And then mid-tone is dark vermilion, and the highlight right now is just straight vermilion. But I think a little bit more yellow. Just a drop. So how are things going in Old Blighty with the stuck farmer? Yeah, heaven forbid I should say something that will get the police coming to your door, right? Just a bit of yellow, and we're just gonna hit a lot of the details and higher wrinkles. Yeah, I can't really say we've seen any improvement here aside from what the media's toting. You know, great talking points for them, but absolute shit when it comes to putting food on my plate right now. And that's all I want to do, Lawson, is I just want to hit up these really sharp high points. Maybe catch some of the more subtle wrinkles and get them jumping out a little bit more, especially on the edges of the tears. Because we still have to go back and add our flesh tones in there. And if anyone wants to try printing these out on their own, oh, same here, Aries, same here. I really want to get a Stuck Farmer shirt, though. Just enough pop. And I've got a zipper up the back to paint here still. All in the little baby steps.
Hello.
Hello. We have been joined by the missus.
Well, I came down real quick to see what you want to do for dinner because it's just you and me.
I don't know, what do you want to do for dinner since it's just you and me?
I can pay to order something. What would you want to eat?
No. It's up to you. Something filling better than Taco Bell.
Well, that's what I was thinking.
I'm trying to decide what to do for dinner, but we don't feel like cooking anything, guys. Maybe I should go just one. I really don't know. Should I go one more step brighter? Yeah, let's try it. Just mainly over. That's about as bright as I can pop it before it starts turning orange. So we'll stop there with that. That's right, you said Mason's doing the D&D thing right now, isn't he?
Well, they're over at Seth's house just playing on the Switch.
Okay.
He's not getting home till like 8:30.
Yeah. we tried messing around with the multi-stream via OBS. It was having hiccups, so we're not doing that anymore. We're not until they get it a bit more plug-and-play friendly. So we're gonna let this set. Let me get the colors I need for her hair. Let's throw her eyes in here. I don't know, it almost shows up too pale. Especially for someone living in a wasteland. Let me try something. I need another mixing palette. I'm feeling more Applebee's quality than Arby's quality right now. Yeah.
You want something else like the mushroom and Swiss?
Let's try the mushroom Swiss this time.
Find it here.
I'm gonna do a test on a shadow area. Let's go right along here. I want to see how this reacts with her skin tone, if it dirties it up too much or not. I guess I could always go back and reglaze over it. You know what the hell?
Oh, it's a bourbon straight mushroom. I thought you would have the bourbon sauce though.
You know, let's just go with the whiskey bacon.
Okay.
I don't want to mess around. Tried messing around last night and wasted $7.
True.
Yeah, whatever you do, don't get the grilled cheese burrito from Taco Bell. It tastes like ass. More ass than Taco Bell usually tastes like. We're just gonna do a flesh wash, and then I can go back and reglaze things as I need to. Let's see how it works on a larger scale. I've not used it on something this size before. I just don't like how bright and honestly almost deathly pale she looks. So let's warm up the skin a little bit. Because what have I said before? You can always repaint it. No, it's not. Taco Bell's not spicy, so it doesn't do that. It's not typically spicy. Unless you add the hot sauce yourself, Taco Bell's pretty benign. No, if I wanted the horrifically unending bowel pain, I would track down the one restaurant I saw in London, just outside Hyde Park. Tennessee Fried Chicken. Not Kentucky Fried Chicken. Tennessee Fried Chicken. This could work in our favor because Kind of want her looking a little dirt and sweat streaked. We're gonna clean that up some, but we'll see how that lays down and dries. Mama, what are you doing? Yeah. And then if that works, we'll apply it to the rest of her. Actually, I need to touch up her hand anyway. Mama? What? Where are you? Oh, you're under me. Okay. Come on. Up. Marbles up. He's done it before. He's been doing chair cat a lot lately. Okay, what do I want to work on next? I'm going to use her arm to test out what I want to do for her jacket. But I also need to bring up some Julie Strain images. Because I think that's what this costume is based on. Kinda, sorta. You guys hear Marbles here? We're just meowing away. It's almost greenish. I think I know what I can do. Now, we're going to go on a really weird tangent with this. There's the boots. Why did that close? Okay, here's what we're gonna do. I think. Where is it? Where is it? I'm gonna go in with a dark earth color for the base. And then when that's dry, this is gonna sound really weird. I'm gonna use that streaking grime. That stays kind of glossy. Where did it go? I'm gonna go back over with this dark green wash and kind of tint it down. Hopefully it doesn't get too Christmassy. Okay, that's drying a little blotchy, but that's workable with the flesh tones I've got. I don't know, I'll figure it out. We'll test it on the arm, see how it works out. And then if that works, we'll proceed to the rest of the jacket. Less to repaint if I fudge something up. kind of going off the Heavy Metal 2000 photo shoot that she did in preparation for the movie's release, and the Simon Bisley art based on her photo shoot for the colors on this. Base color is going to be Flat Earth. I think I'm going to do her jacket in this color regardless. Kind of like what it's doing. And it matches up with the legs a bit. So in case I have to reverse course, I don't have to go back too far. But I think between the dark green wash and black wash, I should be able to make something work out of this. Maybe even throw in some streaking grime just to give it a oily, dirty look in some spots, like spatter it. If I'm rambling, I'm sorry. This is just a lot of thinking out loud, really. Then we'll get more stream candy in. I might be on the right track here. But I really want to get her and Felicia version 2 finished up. All these circular details, I could probably pull those out in bronze or brass. Maybe give them a bit of a kind of a brighter green, pale green wash, kind of like a corroded copper kind of look. But you see how you can go from sloppy to pretty damn cool looking. So don't be afraid to try out your own ideas. Not everything has to be perfect laid out glazing and stuff like that. Especially if you know how to make the paints work for you. Which sometimes I do. Most times I'm honestly just fucking around till I find out. I have an idea, but nothing certain. So there is a liner on the jacket. I don't know if I should make that a different color. yeah. I'm gonna hold off on the liner. That's got to get really close to the thread with that, so we'll concentrate on the outside of the jacket for now. Didn't Bisley also do some of like the first Lobo comics? He always kind of reminded me of that one guy who couldn't draw feet. What was his name? He also did the anatomically impossible Captain America drawing. Liefeld, that's who. I couldn't remember his name for the life of me. But I think it was also Bisley that worked in... God, I think he did a cover for one of the Dark Horse quarterlies. It was almost completely airbrushed. But he was working with airbrushes so small it was ungodly. That? I wish I could remember the quarterly. Yeah. I've noticed that on most of his work, but I thought he also had another technique that he used, or he didn't always stick to that, because it's always good to, do things differently. Who was it that worked with the airbrush on that cover? I mean, we're talking a quarterly from back in the 90s, so don't even expect me to remember it. It wasn't Dan Beauvoir, even though I know he works a lot with airbrushes as well. He works in, God, everything. Does Dark Horse still make anything? I really haven't looked. Most of the properties they had got bought back from Marvel. Like, they had the Aliens and Predator franchises, but when 20th Century Fox switched to Disney, Disney got the rights and Marvel got the production rights on those series. But like The Mask or anything like that, do they still do anything with that, or is Dark Horse really kind of just gone bye-bye? Yeah, because the clear coat adds to the transparency of the paint and just lets it really pop through. And it honestly, you can kind of see it in the reproductions that they use for the covers. But I could only imagine what it would be like seeing the actual artwork, right? Just seeing the raw artwork with the natural light just playing through it like it does. Well, the way I remember Dark Horse, because let's face it, I remember it from the 80s. Dark Horse used to be what Image wanted to be, what McFarlane made his little empire out to be, and then they all just kind of went under, partly because of that and other reasons. And I don't know what color to make her little neck wrap there. We'll figure it out, I guess. Yeah, Dark Horse was like the company for a number of years. I had not seen such an interestingly varied gallery of artists' work in a comic company at all when I was a kid, outside of Dark Horse. Like, if somebody had a style or an idea, they let them go with it, you know? Even in the Aliens comics alone, you had the art, the book one art, which was all black and white, almost manga style, right? Then you had Bova doing the second book in a airbrushed and hand painted style, and then you had who was it? Keith, who did the third one, who also did the Max. His style didn't really translate well over to it, but I could see where it was going, right? And then it went from that to Aliens Genocide. Like, no two comics were the same, ever, you know? They had the license to do The Thing from Another World, they did the adaptation of the movie, then the continuation. Like, they were rocking up until, I want to say, the mid-90s. Well, they did Predator, RoboCop, Aliens vs. Predator, Predator vs. Terminator, RoboCop vs. Terminator, Batman vs. Predator, Superman vs. Aliens. How they got the permission from DC to do that? Which I was honestly hoping that the DC animated series would have had a nod to... Yep. You did those covers? Oh, dude. God, I feel like a shill just, you know, painting this with an accomplished artist watching. I'll take it as a compliment. Thank you very much. No, I'm nervous. So I'm trying to keep her ass from getting scuffed up, so I keep putting her on a paper towel. From Weird Science. Like the original Weird Science or the newer versions? I try to be. this is dry enough. I want to see what this is going to do. Because if it works the way... If it works even remotely how I want it to, I'll be able to push ahead and do the rest. If it doesn't work, I can easily airbrush back over it without laying down too thick a layer. Just putting the wash on, I wanted to have a good thick base for it to work in, so if it softens it, it doesn't ruin it. Okay, no worries. And I don't know, it feels like I'm one of the few people that liked the Mars Attack films, or the film, because I was never a huge, like, Tim Burton fan, right? But I understood kind of how he worked. He has cycles of things that he does, and it almost feels like Ed Wood was obviously a telling of the direction of Plan 9 from Outer Space, and how it was kind of, you know, just a schlocky documentary thing, loosely based on reality. And it feels like Mars Attacks was his attempt at making a 50s style film just based on an IP. And if you watch the movie, certain images from the trading cards were in the film. So this wash is essentially made for green vehicles. They work both as a wash for popping detail, but they can also work as a filter for shifting color. And I've noticed that in the photo shoots for the heavy metal covers that Julie Strain did, and again, either Bisley based his art on that, or how she was dressed in the photo shoots was based on Bisley's art. But he definitely based his character on Strain at some point. Exactly, it was a take on that. I think it being released the same year as Independence Day kind of overshadowed it and made it feel like a knockoff or a ripoff, which it wasn't. But because of the association, it was seen that way. But yeah, I saw it as a fun, stupid Tim Burton movie. And I honestly think that's all he ever wants his movies to be taken as. And it's just fallen prey to the usual, you know, people just reading too much into it shit that goes on. So I like what this is doing, how it's making it look like that dingy green that you see in both the art and the live pictures. I mean, just Google search. I mean, you might have to turn safe search off because Julie Strain was an adult star. But I'm really getting that vibe from this sculpt, like it was inspired by it. But just search Heavy Metal Fact 2 for anyone who doesn't know what I'm talking about. Julie Strain, and you'll see the live photo shoots and the cover art. It is. That's kind of what I'm going for. I want to see how it dries to see what the saturation is and where it settles. And I don't want it to pool up so much because I'd like to bring the brown back to the surface as like the worn edges. But I don't want to go any higher than the brown. I may either give this a second coat, or I will go in and, using a liner brush, pop the shadow areas a bit more, kind of pick out around the details a bit more. 'Cause I really like what that's doing. Because even when I do it, I'm trying to buck the trend of the typical, you know, caramel brown or black leather that's worn out. Oh, nice. I think that movie didn't do as well as it could because when people hear the name heavy metal, I think they were expecting an anthology series more akin to the original 80s one and the magazine itself, like the original was. But instead we got a straightforward story, which wasn't bad, and you could tell that the voice actors, especially Michael Ironside, were just... he was loving the fuck out of that. I just wish the animation could have been a bit smoother. Yeah, I like that. But I'm kind of an animation geek, so it feels like the late 90s, early 2000s were a kind of low spot for non-anime animation. You could kind of see the redesigning going on. Look at how... yeah, look at how Julie Strain's character looks. Some parts of the film she feels more angular and rugged, and others she feels softer. But at least this time there was actual heavy metal music in the soundtrack. Yeah, I like what that did. And for comparison, there's the original color. I'm gonna let this dry a bit more. You can still see it's a bit wet there. I really like what that did. I'm probably going to go back into the shadows a bit, back into the creases, I should say, and pull some more out of there. But overall, Heavy Metal 2000 was enjoyable, and for those who didn't know, one of the rare times you hear Billy Idol doing voice acting. Let me guess, one of those designs was the fighters used near the beginning, which got scrapped for some bad CGI mess. But you also have to look at what that movie was up against at that time. From the US, you had... I'm talking within a year or two either side of it. Iron Giant, Titan AE, what else was there? There was a couple others. But that's also when Shrek and all those movies were coming out. And the same time you had Princess Mononoke being pulled in from Japan. God, there's so many other... because I was going to a computer animation school at the time. And just everything that came out we were watching. Whether we got it bootleg, downloaded after 10 hours on the internet, you know, that kind of shit at the time. But yeah, given what Heavy Metal 2000 was up against at that time, it's not surprising it didn't do well. Yeah, see, this flesh tone's not... it is a tongue work. It is a lighter flesh tone, but it's not the same one I used for the highlights on this. So I might actually go back with the... I might go back with the masking putty and redo some of the flesh tones. But I know the character in the film was also featured a lot more on the covers for Heavy Metal. Like, the film wasn't the total story of the character. It was almost like an origin point for the character. And the film kind of just boiled it down almost too much. So once dinner gets here, I'm probably going to stop stream too. But I'm going to put on some more music. Oh, The Fifth Element, I think, has been confirmed as being heavily inspired by Heavy Metal magazine. Also, like the entire idea of Corbin Dallas and how he rescued Lilu, it's almost scene for scene pulled from the cabbie scene from the first film, which I think was also in the magazines as such. And Heavy Metal is, they're produced by 2000 AD, right? If I remember right, or they split from that. Mobius did work on it, yep. The reason I ask is I saw a certain film in theaters back in '90 that a lot of people, you know, blinked and missed. Yeah, Harry Canyon. Yep. Hardware, which they had to actually add to the credits on later re-releases of the film on media, that certain scenes were influenced by the Shock short in either Heavy Metal or 2000 AD. I forget who owned it at the time. Yeah, those are popping really nice, the little tears. I was gonna say, if Eastman did own it, I don't think he owned it for very long. Yeah, we're definitely gonna darken up the skin tones. While we're here, let me start mapping out what we're gonna do here. Get the base tone back out, see how it looks. Yeah, he did own it during the Fact 2 era. What I'm talking about, though, is long before that. We're talking, you almost want to say the golden times of it, which was back in the 80s and 90s. So I know it's only February, but I'm starting to randomly came to the animation studio and entire back issue library to use for reference. Yeah, and we know she sadly passed away. And she was to like the comic scene what Elvira is to like the B movie scene, you know. Every person I know that's actually run into her or met her has nothing but good things to say about her. And I don't mean this in a bad way. She loved schlocky films. You know, some of the stuff I've seen on those best of the worst or so bad it's good channels. A lot of the films feature her in a smaller role, and you can tell she's just eating the scenery up. She's just doing what she loves. Okay. You sure it was that? Because yeah, 77 sounds about right. What about the European side of it, though, the Metal Hurlant? Because I could have sworn it was originally a French magazine. We're going to play with these darker tones a bit. Oh, she was. Even if you look at the pictures, some of the ones I'm using as reference, I mean, for a woman of her stature, it is very difficult to take flattering pictures in the kind of costume she's wearing, right? But at the same time, you can tell from some of the ones that are like behind the scenes where she's not posing and lit for the camera, she's just not giving a single fuck and just loving the hell out of it. Yeah, you can tell the ones where she's like really like egging the camera on. Yeah, she was what, 6'1", 6'2"? She was, and then you put her in heels, and it's like, oh my god. I gotta Google it. Yeah, she was 6'1". She's as tall as I am. But like I said, with what she's wearing and the way she's structured, it's very difficult to take even flattering pictures in that kind of outfit. But she managed to pull it off. I'm liking how this warmer tone's going. Slightly orangish. We can work on that. I might look up some videos on different flush painting techniques just to broaden my own horizons. I tried priming with a different color. Didn't like how that worked out. This is all just really just mapping out kind of what I want to do with it. The wash that I used went kind of blotchier than I wanted. That's fine. I've done faces like this before.
showing too good on that.
That's what I'm talking about. Is the original French version. I think it was. No, but Shock was featured in AD 2000, which is different. AD 2000 was an English publication that started Judge Dredd and all those. But again, it was similar to Heavy Metal in that it was anthology based. And the movie Hardware was based on a short that was in AD 2000 or 2000 AD, however they market it. It changes all the time from whoever I hear referring to it. So it was me. I got it mixed up. But yeah, there was one called Shock where a guy brings his girlfriend back a bag of parts that she used and could be used in artwork. And it rebuilds itself in her apartment and goes nuts. And the movie Hardware was based on that short and went further. And the director was forced, or either the director or the owning company was forced to put an acknowledgement of that in the credits for the film. But it's easy to see how you could get the two kind of crossed. Both European publications, and both had a pretty similar art style in a lot of cases. I wouldn't doubt that they probably shared artists from time to time. Not so much that the companies owned the artists like Marvel or DC did via contract, but the artists have more freedom to go and do a segment for one magazine and another, you know. I like the structure that's starting to pull out with that. Yeah. I'll let this fully dry and start pulling more out. Brian Bolland. Why does that name sound familiar? Throw me a bone on that. That sounds so familiar. You know, for somebody who doesn't really do a lot with comic books, I'm amazed what I do know. Like, I am a total... Oh yeah, Mobius had an interesting style in that he would animate dirt, you know, like he would draw the dirt and the grit, which then went on to inspire other artists like, what's his name? Kobayashi, and yeah, he did draw Judge Dredd, you're right. Okay, that's where I know the name from then. But Mobius inspired Kobayashi and Ko Yokoyama to a degree. There's an animated OVA called Dragon's Heaven, which I don't remember if it's true or not, but people say Mobius actually did work on that. Or they aped his style extremely well. The entire film's on YouTube if you want to check it out. So she's looking to her left. What color eye is she gonna have? Let's be weird. How about emerald? Or, which one's brighter? Yeah, let's go with the emerald. So I'm going to throw some emerald in there really quick just to pop out the pupil, or not the pupil, the iris. The pupil is, like, both of her pupils are buried in the corners of her eyes, so it's going to be hard to make this one look convincing. It's like she is looking hard left to the point where it actually hurts your eyes. Just shake this up a little more. Gonna have to shake this up a lot more. There we go. No, I'm not doing any of the other work yet. I'm going to do this very sloppy, so if I have to bring back the white, I can. Because he made it so the iris is dished, and the pupil is at the very bottom of that dish. So I'm overpainting it so I can trim it back. That doesn't look wall-eyed. Once that dries, I'll be able to come back and kind of pick out the area that's going to be more highlighted and brighter. Maybe mix a bit of, ooh, that would work. I've got a very almost pale turquoise I can mix in just to pop the highlight. I'll let that dry for now. This face is looking ugly, but that's what a work in progress is. I'm trying to remember who did the art for Aliens Genocide. I liked his style. It's gonna work like a glaze, just like I want. Yep. Alright, so I think I know what we're gonna be doing Friday. As long as Friday works out okay. A lot more work on this gal. And if not her, it'll be Felicia 2.0. I think I have my first exposure to heavy metal in much the same way. Both via Den and Mobius. And there was a again, there was a French film called Gondahar. It was retitled Light Years for US release. I remember seeing that, and it's not aged very well animation-wise, but god damn, it's a fucking impressive film story-wise. And there's that what's that series called? It's on HBO, but it's not getting a second season. Animated cargo ship crashes. All the survivors. I have it on VHS and DVD. The Men of Metal are cool. Christopher Plummer buried himself in the role of the Amorphous in the English dub. Jennifer Grey was in it, you know. A lot of good actors in that film. Hell, even Glenn Close was in it. Some of the music, when you're able to hear it, especially the music when they're inside the Amorphous and trying to run from it, had a very Pink Floyd Learning to Fly kind of sound to it. Okay, I'm going to give this a quick swipe with some of the base color just to see how the highlights pop it. Penn and Teller were some of the characters in the Deformed. It might be, but you would have to look in the foreign market. I don't think it's going to get an American release. I wish the animation would get a cleanup too, because it was pretty rough even on VHS. You know, I have not met anyone. Okay, dinner's here. I have not met anyone else who's seen that film. I guess you have to be a certain age to really appreciate that movie. Mm-hmm. And I think, if I remember right, John Shook was one of the Deformed. And for anybody who doesn't know who John Shook is, Star Trek 3 and 4, primarily Star Trek 4, the Klingon ambassador that wanted Kirk arrested for stealing a bird of prey. I gotta let this dry a bit more before I can do that. It's kind of reactivating the wash. But dinner is here. So did I. I think we all had that bootleg. But I'm going to call it a night for the stream and go get my dinner and enjoy my whiskey bacon burger. And I will see you all later. So have a good night.